What is the best way to paint energy and magic weapons? Is it silver with a subtle blue glow? No. Is it 10 minutes contrast paint magic? No. Is it fire and OSL? I mean, pretty close, but no. Hello everyone, welcome back fellow pigment pushers. I have not uploaded in a while, so here's a quick video while I'm editing my next longer video where I painted two rather different versions of the same mini, and then I sent it to Games Workshop to pick one of them for a Warhammer community article, and the result is quite surprising. But now on to the topic of this video. Power weapons are one of the most requested videos on this channel. And with the Votann just coming out and explicitly wielding these lava-infused weapons.
Bro, it's not lava, it's plasma fields.
I mean, it looks like lava. Might as well call it that. So I thought now is a good time to show you one of my all-time favorite ways to paint energy weapons, and are a real eye-catcher on the tabletop. And I think it works for many armies, so even if you are not interested in the Votann at all, I'm pretty sure you can take away some useful knowledge from this video. So let's get started. I already prepared this miniature, just to send it to base coat to show a bit of the details, and I'm going to be painting a bit backwards here, starting from light and going to dark, and that's why I'm applying a solid layer of white paint here as my starting point. It really does not matter which white you're using, just try to find one that leaves a smooth surface without any brush strokes. Once that is done, I'm stopping and I'm thinking where I want to put really hot areas and where the material begins to cool a bit. That means the hot areas are going to stay brighter, most likely more towards the inside of the sword, and further out and the further to the front we're getting, everything's going to cool off a bit, and therefore we're going to go towards a darker color. Like I said, we're going to move backwards here, going from the lightest color to the darkest. And I'm using the fact that most yellow paints don't cover white in one layer to my advantage, while building a gradient from white to yellow. Next I'm building a couple of layers with orange, and I'm switching between more opaque layers where I need the coverage, like towards the tip of the sword, and then more of a glazed consistency to create gradients, as well as these specks and dots. So when we're doing the orange, we don't necessarily want to make a super smooth transition. We want to create some texture. We want to create these small specks where the temperature maybe rises unequally, and that makes for a really interesting effect. And sometimes I'll go back in with some yellow and I'll bring out some more of these imperfections. Not only does this create additional information and structure on my gradient, it also smooths out the gradient. And moving forward from here, we will have to do a bit of a back and forth sometimes, because it's kind of hard to plan this gradient and how much of the yellow we still need, and how much of the orange and how much of the next layer is needed to create the effect. So if I lose too much of the yellow, I'll go back in and restore some of it. Sometimes it's a bit ingrained in painters that there's always step A, step B, step C, step D, and then we have the finished product. And that works a lot of the time, but sometimes we just have to go back and forth, and most of the time it's fine to just paint over what we perceive as a mistake and what we want to fix. And sometimes it's not really possible to have a linear progression. Sometimes to have the best effect, we need to go back and paint over something again. To increase the glowing hot feeling I want from the weapon, I'm mixing a bit of fluorescent orange into the red. The fluorescent color gives a lot more intensity, and I continue to create these patterns that we established initially. So I'm just trying to dab on various shapes. Of course, also running my brush down the edges, because they would be darker as the material is cooling off more in these areas. Then I start to add more and more pure red, and I keep dabbing on the brush to create more of these patterns. And I don't necessarily always follow the gradient. Sometimes I will dab the brush onto an area that is just on the transition of the orange and the yellow. Basically, I'm going darker in some areas where you would not expect it. But again, this is to create some of these inconsistencies with heat and cooler areas. It's a bit of a controlled chaos approach that just adds a tiny bit more of credibility to this. And all of this still looks a bit funky, and to get that last bit of realism in, we need to add some black. And I start very conservatively. I try to get rid of most of the paint on my brush so that I can control it a bit better. And as you can see, I'm covering very small areas. And in this step, you really want the paint to be opaque. So if you have coffee staining or anything like that, you need to add a bit more of the regular acrylic paint. So again, we want to aim for a bit of a controlled chaos. And this is when everything is starting to come together, mostly because of the contrast this is creating. Whenever you feel like the effect is too stark, if the black just stands out too much against the orange red, you can mix an in-between color of black and red, so you have a transitional color, and just reinforce the gradient a bit. I will usually just slap on these chunks of black paint to add more weight to the effect. It looks more like black bubbles rising in molten material. As always, a rule of cool is what counts. One last step is to bring back some of the hot glowing effect. And for that, I'm mixing a bit of yellow into pure white, and I stipple on some dots of that mix so it fits right in with the pattern. It makes sense to put these where the sword would be the hottest, making it look like it's glowing from within because of the heat. And this is really the last thing to make the effect come together. And like I said earlier, if you feel like you lost a part of the transition, like here I wanted a bit more orange red in the gradient, you can just mix an in-between color and stipple it on. If you are on my Discord server, you already saw the new t-shirt designs. I'm happy to announce that it's finally available. I will leave a link to my Teespring store in the description if you want to pick one up. Here I quickly finished the middle part and hilt of the weapon, and this is how the result looks. I really think swords like these fit into any sci-fi and even fantasy armies and make for great centerpieces. Hope you learned something new, and if you want to learn a few more tricks on how to improve your painting at any skill level, you need to watch this video. Or if you want more short videos with quick tricks like how to paint black, check out this video. Thanks for watching, keep pushing that pigment, and see you next time.